So welcome to the Hugh Cargill Trust Committee meeting. It's 9:31. Is someone willing to just take some minutes until she gets here?
Oh, I can do it.
Oh, there she is. Hooray.
Good morning. Sorry,
Good
I
morning.
couldn't find the link for a minute, but I got it. Yeah.
No worries. We're just opening the meeting at 9:31. And reviewing right off the bat the minutes from August 8th, which I didn't have any comments on. They were great. Anyone else?
I'm okay with it both.
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes? Public and executive?
I move we approve both public and executive minutes.
Second, I don't know if I'm allowed to
A
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you so much. And the
Thank you.
treasurer's report?
I have to start over, sorry.
Oh,
Just wait 1 second, I'll be right with you.
okay.
Sorry, I was having trouble getting my audio, so I'm just in now.
We approve the minutes, public and
Okay.
Can I
executive.
ask a question here about the minutes? Because obviously I'm still on the learning
Sure,
curve.
of
I
course.
think I learned with the ones that were just approved, that if there are visitors or people other than the committee to meetings, they should be listed. Is that correct?
Yes.
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 Okay, thank you.
Okay, for the treasurer's report, there were two things of note. We received two gifts, one from CMLP for $10,000, and then a gift from individuals to the HCT, and that is from, let me find my paper. Mr. and Mrs. John Langan, Langan, gave $17,000 to HCT. Does anyone know them to send them a thank you?
Yes. I
You do? You
Yeah.
know, so would you like to do that then?
Yes, I think it was a very
I
substantial
already
gift.
sent a thank you to.
Yeah, but
Oh, you did?
But even
Yeah, I sent a thank you for every gift that comes in.
even so, Shannon, if we happen to know personally or some way, it's always nice for us to say thank you as well.
It was a substantial.
There's no harm in sending a second note from someone who personally knows them. I think that'd be wonderful.
And that's a very generous gift.
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
mhm.
Very-
Well,
Minutes question, should the amounts of the gifts be listed in the minutes or just that there were gifts?
I think just the gifts.
I think so
Yeah.
too. I think it's
I think,
particularly from individuals.
that's-
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob, for getting the CMLP gift. I know that took a few phone calls and emails on your part. And Shannon.
Yeah, thank you.
We're glad to do it. Shannon helped a lot too.
Yeah.
So Catherine, the two things that you mentioned, the two gifts, those will show on the next treasurers, the October one.
They're in the September one.
Okay. CMLP shows an opening balance of 2,100, or am I looking at the wrong? I'm looking at the wrong one.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm sorry.
Should be for September. Did other people get the September?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
No, yeah, it's just because when I open, I forget to go to the actual
Tab.
Yes, exactly. In fact, I don't even, where is the tab? There it is.
What are you looking for?
I was looking at the wrong, at the wrong month of the treasurer's report. When I opened the spreadsheet,
Oh,
I forgot to go to September 2023. So I'm looking at it now and I see it all. Thank you.
okay.
Can I have a motion? Does anyone have any other questions about the treasurer's report? We can.
Just again, to maybe try to get this right. This is the August report or the September report?
September 19th.
It's the statement it's the September report for it's, and the date of it is the end of August. But it's
So how
called
do
the
we,
September.
so did we describe it as the August report then?
No,
No.
we use the September, and it's
Okay.
confusing, but it's called the September.
Report, okay, thank you.
Think of it as being think of it as being the report for the committee as of the meeting we're
Well, right,
having.
except since
That
September.
describes what happened in the last
Yeah.
month.
You know, since September is not over yet, I wasn't sure of that. Yeah. Okay.
Good point.
I move that we
So take a vote.
use
Yeah,
for the September 19 meeting.
the second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
aye,
Thank you very much. Under new business, just an announcement that the select board did vote to incorporate the tax relief committee's duties with the Hugh Cargill Trust Committee duties. And it is now going to be part of our charge, which Shannon reminded me that we had already discussed and voted on at our last meeting. I think I was having internet problems.
Yeah.
So that's really more of a statement than it is a discussion point on the agenda. But that's pretty exciting. And Denny has very generously offered and is interested in helping with the annual appeal every year, which I believe we get going on now. So
yeah, I
let's
think October, we usually meet with what was the tax relief committee. But we are now the tax relief committee, so
right.
we can set a date or.
Yep. So I think that the letter that goes out needs to be just modified in a minor way to update for 2023, and also the author, it will be now coming from our committee instead of jointly from the tax relief committee and our committee. And it might be nice to have just a brief statement that those responsibilities are now part of our charge, so that the townspeople who receive the letter will know how it's going to be run going forward. So I think, Bob, in the past, you met with Denny and then circled back to the committee once we had our letter done. And then in the past, Denny has things printed and prepared, and we each take sort of a box of letters. And we look at the spreadsheet of recipients, because if there are folks that we know, then we take that letter and make a personal note on it from us. In any case, maybe you and I, Bob, can chat before our next meeting and incorporate Denny, and the three of us can come up with something for the committee next month that's ready to go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
I definitely like to keep her in the loop, so.
Elizabeth, I think
Yes.
last month, Hester, you mentioned that you thought the letter could be freshened up with some more.
Thank you. Bring it up. I think it would be strengthened by having a couple of, 2-sentence stories in it.
I agree.
Oh, okay. So we're looking to, 2 or 3 stories. The new, the combination of the duties and a new signature. And then probably prior to next meeting, Bob and I and Denny will make sure that everybody has a copy of the spreadsheet so that they can think about it ahead of time and note the people that they would be interested in writing to. Because ideally, they're in the mail. Actually, remind me, Bob, is it like the first week of December?
Yes, either
Okay,
late November or first week in December.
so if we commit to having them ready to go, let's say before Thanksgiving, because I think once Thanksgiving hits, we're all going to be pretty busy with family and holidays and friends and things. Does that make sense? So by the next meeting, we will have circulated the spreadsheet and then work with Denny and also Shannon to create the actual mailing so that at the next meeting, we'll be ready to distribute boxes of letters and then folks can just get them ready to go and return them. Either Denny or Bob or I can be, you know what? Bob and Denny and I will just come up with a plan, and at our next meeting, we'll have it for you. How about that?
So
I'm just thinking out loud now.
one thing I would like is that we
Yes.
also get to approve the letter, because we might have little minor edits and things. So I think the letter should go to our committee and
That's a great idea. So we'll draft a letter and we'll prepare the spreadsheet in advance of next meeting. Yes,
And if you could send the letter before the meeting, only because it's very hard for 6 or 5 people to sit around and edit together. It's much better in the quiet of our kitchen. We do it at home and then bring it to the committee, our ideas.
yeah, I think that's a great idea. In fact, if we send the letter out and folks respond with their thoughts before the next meeting,
That's
we'll
what I
have a
did.
chance. Yeah, we'll have a chance to create a new draft letter that incorporates people's suggestions. So we
Right.
can really, yeah, okay, that sounds great. The tenant rental assistance fund. Bob, do you want to go ahead with that? We did, we got some of your notes by email. But if you
Elizabeth,
want
it's
to,
Carlin Reed. I also have an update
Yes.
on it when you're ready. Thank you.
I see you. Okay, Bob, I'll have you start maybe, and then Carlin can follow, and then we can have our discussion.
Yeah, I attended meetings and I know there were two separate letters that I saw that were transmitted. One was from the Bonnie and the other from Colin, who's with us today. So and there were some amounts of money proposed in each one. Bonnie is more for long term, and we're looking at like short term emergency help for people that are renting that live in our town. So I don't know if and I listed out some things in an email that I had sent out to discuss. So I don't know, Colin, you're on. Do you have any input now at this point?
Yes, Carlin Reed, 83 Woodson. And I think this is a very good time to give you my input because I think this project is done. And here's why. There was a discussion at by the Municipal Housing Affordable Trust Committee, and they went through a series of projects that have been mentioned for funding from the trust. There was some opposition to using any of the funds by a couple members for anything except to build a house. And they specifically said, well, rental really isn't within the contemplation of what we're wanting to use this money for. So they didn't say, and I was on the meeting during that discussion. I pushed a little bit saying, so does that mean that's a no vote for the emergency tenant rental assistance? Two of the 4 people there who were members said, yeah, I'm sorry, but no. The other 2 remained quiet. So that to me says it was a nice idea. It was a really good suggestion. We had lots of help from this committee to push for it, but this Affordable Housing Trust Committee is thinking that they're going to be using their funds for building affordable housing, not for helping those who live in affordable housing to meet their rent payments. So this particular project, I think, is done unless you, from the funding point. Now, you still folks can do what you want as you have in the past. But I guess the short answer is please don't count on any funding this particular year, because I don't think we're going to get it. Thanks. That's it.
I have a
All right.
question, Carlin.
Sure.
Was there discussion primarily around the idea that it's not their charge, like that's not their purpose? It wasn't
No.
it wasn't a lack of
No.
support for rent. What
No.
or
It was clear, the chairman of the committee, Keith Bergman, said, actually responding to Mary Hartman's question, well, I don't think this is in the charge. I don't think it was within the scope. He said, yes, it is, and here's why. And he went into about a 5-minute dialogue about how it is within the scope of the Affordable Housing Trust charge. That was in a previous meeting. The focus here was we have well more than $3 million of projects that have requested fundings. We have only 3 million at this point. So I think we're going to be focusing on building affordable housing units rather than focusing it for either basically Bonnie's program or our program. So neither Bonnie's program nor the emergency tenant rental assistance programs will be funded for the Affordable Housing Trust at this time. Now, Shannon, if you have heard differently, please by all means tell me, but my understanding is that they were not interested at this time.
I, to be honest, haven't heard any further updates on this. So I would say what you've heard is the most recent.
Okay. All right.
so then I have a follow-up question. So does this mean that the that this isn't going to happen because the Municipal Affordable Housing Trust Committee's charge includes it, but at this time they are choosing not to do it? Or
I
does
think
it
that's
mean
correct. I think
that
that's
is,
correct.
that would be correct?
That's
Okay.
correct.
And
It
so
is within the scope, but not right now. They have so many other projects that are looking for funding. And there was a list presented at a select board meeting and at the Affordable Housing Trust Committee of all the projects that have been requested. And it looks like, yeah, we're not on the list. We didn't make the cut, this first cut this year.
Well, $3 million will go fast too, so.
It will, especially when you have the $1.5 million assigned for Assabet Bluff Upland Road.
Right. So we'll continue to carry on. We have actually one request this month for rent assistance.
Oh, good. I do encourage you to continue to do this. I think it's very vital. And let me know how I can help do more fundraising if possible. Thanks.
So a bit to go back to our prior agenda item, is this something that we might want to mention in our annual appeal letter, that it's part of what we do and that's the funds that we receive as gifts?
Like, how about that's one of the stories?
Yes, I like that.
I
Okay.
think that's a good idea. Thank you very much.
Okay. I hope that they do have a plan for figuring out some percent of their budget each year to support the folks that now have housing in our town, because it's a little tricky to build it and then have it not be sustainable for some of the folks that live there. Okay.
Elizabeth, there was some support for people who own the house and want to make minor repairs but can't afford it. There was a $25,000 allocation to the Concord Housing Development Corporation. They have a small grants program that did get support by the Housing Trust. So I think that's
great. I know about that.
Yeah, that one,
that's
if you have folks, that's going to go forward. They're going to get their funding, and I suspect that will continue to exist. So they will be getting their $25,000 a year. Okay.
Okay. Oh, good. Okay, great. All right. Thank you. All right. So I guess the conclusion of that is that we're just going to keep doing what we do.
Right.
All right. Our next new business is Concord Cares. Catherine, do you want to sort of bring us up to date on that? Like some of the questions we had?
Well, it's the The Concord Cares now has about $1,700 in it. It's one of the funds that Bonnie can use to help with energy, with oil and probably gas. So in that way, I think it's good to I think Bonnie should have access to some things on her own. I think we should refrain from using that account and just let Bonnie use it. I'm not sure we want to start fundraising for yet another fund. We're already doing 2. And we can leave, if we left the account open, it can be fundraised for sometime in the future.
And
How
we
does,
also
go ahead, Lucy.
do oil and gas. You know, we do, in fact, we have some this month. I'm just using that as an example to show you monthly we get
Right.
requests for that sort of support. And it doesn't go through Bonnie, that particular, hers is more emergency.
Right. So she can just get a check from that on an emergency basis, which we can't do.
Right.
So I wouldn't close it yet. We just should not tap into it. And we can talk to her as it goes down. I mean, 1,700 doesn't go very far, but
I think the distinction Lucy made about it being for an emergency that can be accessed at any time by Bonnie is sort of the important point here, because that means it remains the fund it is, and the way in which it gets funded and the way in which it gets administered. But it doesn't mean that we don't also have the opportunity on a monthly basis to receive requests.
Catherine, I forgot, the funding originally for that, was that
I think
through the
it was
church,
during the
some
oil
churches, or-
crisis. It was through some churches. It was through a general appeal to churches, and various other entities funded it to begin with, but no one has fundraised for it in a while.
Okay.
So does that mean when the 1,700 is spent, will we have this conversation again? I mean, if there's no source of funds, it will eventually
Why
end?
can't we spend, like, from the Hugh Cargill Trust? Is there?
That's what
We do. That's what we do.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm kind of backing up with. I mean,
Yeah,
we don't need to go into that.
I just,
if Bonnie spends it down for emergencies and there's 0 in there, where is she going to get the continuing supply of funding for emergency oil and gas?
That's my question. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, she'll maybe come to us. Who knows?
Does
Oh,
she
that's an
have other
interesting-
resources? She have other resources to, you know?
I'll have
Lucy,
to reach out to her to see. I'll talk to her about it and see how much she needs. I don't know. Would it be possible for the Hugh Cargill Trust to put money in that account?
I think that's the question, right? I think that's the question right there, because the fact that she can access it immediately and doesn't have to wait for our monthly meetings, I think is really important. So it'd be very interesting to know if she's able to come to us for a request. Maybe it's an annual request because she has a sense of her budget. Yeah, that would be the question, is where the funds will come from when they've been used up, and whether we can be the ones that support it.
You're going to do that, Catherine? You're going to talk with her?
I will talk with her. And Shannon, do you know who we would, I don't know about transferring money between different funds like this. Who would I talk to at the town?
So the thing about this account is that I know this gets confusing. Everything is in one account. Everything is in the same account. There's no transferring. We keep track of them as separate funds or accounts, but everything is in one account. So we never actually have to do any
A
sort
trans-
of transferring, but we definitely track them as separate accounts.
All right, well, I'll ask about that before next meeting about if it would be I'll talk to Bonnie, see how much she'd like a year and see if we can she could come to us, same kind of request to move some money from the Hugh Cargill into that.
Can I suggest that you take a quick peek at our charge and see
Yeah.
if the language accounts for that already?
Okay,
Thank you. The next item of new business that we already sort of covered, which is that Shannon is already writing thank you notes when we receive gifts. And that we'll just be hearing as a committee who they are each month in case one of us would like to write a personal note to someone we know.
perfect.
Thank you. For continuing business, there's an item here that for emergency meetings protocol, I think Catherine, you had asked to put on here, and thank you for just letting us know why.
Yeah, so when we do an emergency meeting, we do it as a regular meeting. You post the agenda for an open meeting. And the only item on the agenda is to do a roll call to go to executive session. So I think we actually have to have two links. We have to have an open meeting with the sole agenda item of going to executive session. And I can't tell you, there are reasons why. I didn't get into the details of it, but that's what we need to do. Going forward. It's
Sorry.
just a little tweak, but it would be, I think it would mean 2 Zoom links. But it's just, that's the protocol for meetings.
But here's a question. If it's truly an emergency executive meeting for something very important, like there is something current, which is not, I'm not requesting that, but there is a deadline for payment in an extreme circumstance. Would we have to post it and wait a week?
I believe it has to be a regular meeting posted.
It only has to be posted 48 hours in advance. So just 2 days in advance.
Okay, that helps. Because if it's a true emergency, otherwise, if it was a week, maybe we'd say, well, we'll slide along, but we really can't.
Yeah, it's just 2 days in advance.
Okay.
And that would cover the public meeting as well, the 48 hours, because it's an emergency.
Yep.
Okay, so if for some reason go ahead.
The emergency, our executive session is a subset of the meeting of the open meeting. So you always have to have an open meeting, and then the executive session is within that meeting, if you think about it that way.
All right, thank you. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, we chose to have a separate link because of the complication of who's attending and how to make sure for confidentiality, but basically we're having one meeting. Got it. Okay, thank you. Bob, you want to do our tax relief update?
Yes, we have one new applicant, and seems very, very eligible. And I've spoken to several people about it, so we can discuss in the executive meeting, the details.
Thank you.
At this point, I think we have around 61 applicants.
Bob, is that a sort of a common number? I mean, is that the neighborhood of the number you usually have? 61?
I don't know, Shannon, I'm not sure if that's the latest list I have. I think.
I don't think there's been any changes since the last time I gave you that list.
All right. Okay.
Hester, it pretty much stays the same every year. And then when we adjust the minimum assessed value, sometimes we get a few new applicants, but it's basically the same population.
Yeah, well, it's, you know, as we get new applicants, the list, you know, and some people go off the list, some people are added to the list, so it's a living document.
So I have a question. I always, when I think of tax relief, I think of a lot of different things. And I'm always sort of hoping we call it property tax relief. Why don't we call it property tax relief? Because that's really, you know, that's what it is.
Right. It is.
I agree. I think that's really important. Thank you, Lucy.
So whenever we're talking about tax relief in our committee and what we do, and we should always call it property tax relief. I think it makes it clearer for the general public because it's very precise and you know, it also lets people know that it's for owners.
Thank you. I agree.
Yeah.
I'll change the agenda from now on. I think that's really important. It can be
Yeah.
very confusing,
Especially,
very confusing for
there
applicants
was,
especially.
it was the tax relief. There was a tax relief committee. It was the way it was set up. That's why the name, you know, initially, so we
But it doesn't have to
disbanded the
stay.
tax
Yeah.
relief.
Right. It doesn't have to stay that property tax relief.
Right.
I think it just
Right.
clarifies.
I think it can be very confusing for our applicants as well, so that being more clear also makes it easier to understand what we do and which things we support. So thank you.
I'm wondering what the connection may be with this and the new thing about everybody should put in for a tax rebate.
Are you talking about the residential
I'm
exemption?
talking about like the article that I read, the Concord Bridge, and immediately did the application, said everybody should do it. So presumably anybody who applies to us should be asked, did you also make the application for the tax rebate?
So there's a difference between the residential exemption, which I think is what you're talking about. And I'm not even sure what you mean by a tax rebate.
I'm not sure,
hearing
maybe
a
the rebate's not the right
basic-
word. It was just the article in the Concord Bridge this last week saying that, I guess, in response to rising property taxes, there was
Right.
perhaps going to be some money taken off many people's taxes this year.
I think it's called tax exemption. It's tax
Is that
exemption.
the right name?
Proper, you know, yeah, because it's based on a percentage of, you know, the
Right.
home. So, and I think it's like, has like a $1.5 million cap or something where it would not apply above that.
So there's what's
But that's part of the assessor's office.
Right. Right.
So it's called the residential exemption. There are other towns that do this, and this is the first time that Concord is going to be doing it. So to Hester's point, Bob, I think we really should be mentioning it to all of our applicants because the ones who own homes, very, very likely, almost 100% are likely to benefit from the residential exemption. So it should be, I think it should really become part of our intake in all areas when we hear from an applicant.
I agree. I will do it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
And Mike Gibbons in the assessor's office, who you all have worked with before, is a great reference for applicants.
right.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Hester. The communications and monthly update, I just check our schedule and pretty much we've already discussed it. We have the annual appeal coming up as our main next form of reaching out to our community. I don't think there's anything else. And then the last is the House budget earmark was approved and, and Shannon, I apologize because now I forget your answer. We have written a thank you note for it. Or we
No,
haven't.
Sorry. So I had said that I drafted one and I was gonna let you guys review it. I can share my screen if you guys would like, but Lucy, definitely moving forward, I can send these to you guys ahead of time so you can review on your own.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think, so is that something that,
that sounds good.
yeah, I think it would be really wonderful if it was signed by us as well.
Yeah. All right. So can you guys see this letter?
I think it's wonderful, but I think Bob's name needs to be with mine.
Do you mean like just to the side of it?
Sure, yes, and then maybe Bob and I sign it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be great, thank you.
Yeah. Any other comments?
No, looks great.
I have a comment. Having seen Representative Cataldo a number of times over the last year or so, every single time he's been very excited about the Hugh Cargill Trust. So
True.
he always is happy to talk about it, and so am I. So it's really nice to have him in our corner because he knows who we are and cares deeply. So that's my comment.
Okay.
Thank you, Lucy.
All right. So I'll just switch the signature lines and then yes, Bob and Elizabeth, if you want to sign. Also, the chair's breakfast is tomorrow. So Bob, I know you usually come to that. I could have you sign tomorrow, and Elizabeth, if you just want to drop by whenever that's fine.
Thank you. Made a note. to
Yep.
come
And
see
also
you.
I'll just remind you guys that after the chair's breakfast tomorrow from 9:30 to 10:30, if you're around, there's going to be a diversity, equity, and inclusion discussion with a consultant, and that's for all committee members. So it's not just for chairs if anyone else wants to come.
Shannon, if I could barge in for just a moment, why isn't the chair's breakfast noticed on the town's calendar? It's not posted.
It should be. So I think that there is confusion about, there are different town calendars. And I think people are probably looking on the committee's calendar, and it likely isn't posted there because the town clerk's office feels strongly about only posting committee meetings there. But I know that I have sent the chair's breakfast because Stefan Bader mentioned something to me about the last one. And I sent every single chair's breakfast until April 2024 to the clerk's office to be posted. You can see it there.
I'm confused.
Okay, thank you.
Why is this not the only calendar? Why is there a different one than this one?
So this got brought up. I didn't even know recently that there are different calendars on the town website. But so it is on the board and committee one, but there are all these different calendars that I had no idea about, that, you know, we've brought events forward to the clerk's office to be posted, and they have declined us because they say, well, there's different calendars. But regardless, Carlin, the chair's breakfasts are posted through April 2024.
I didn't even know that. That's just,
I didn't know until like a month ago.
wow. Okay. That is it for our meeting today, our public meeting. So if I
Alright.
could have a motion to move to the executive session? Bye, Carlin, thank you.
Yeah. I make a motion that we adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing individuals or families seeking assistance, the disclosure of which would be a violation of privacy.
Second,
Is there a second?
second.
Second.
All in
Aye.
favor?
I
Aye.
Aye. See you all in a few minutes.
All right.